When patients breathe through a tracheotomy, airflow bypasses the nose, which is the natural filtering, humidifying, and warming organ of the body. This has a significant negative impact on the pulmonary physiology. A heat moisture exchanger, or HME, can act as an artificial nose and maintain the health of the lungs. One problem with all flapper-type speaking valves is that they cannot work in unison with an HME, as HMEs can draw moisture only from exhaled air. All flapper-type valves are by design 100% closed upon exhalation, and exhaled air from the lungs cannot pass through a flapper-type valve, so it cannot reach the HME to moisturize it. The Shikani speaking valve solves this problem, since when placed in the 12 o'clock notch up or bias open position, it allows airflow in and out through the valve with each inhalation and exhalation. With the Shikani HME used in unison along with the Shikani speaking valve, exhaled air can easily pass through the speaking valve and bring humidity and moistures from the lung to the HME. The hygroscopic foam inside the HME will hence absorb the exhaled moisture and then return it to the lungs upon inhalation. It is important to remember that the Shikani speaking valve must be placed in the 12 o'clock notch up position with the ball sitting posteriorly to allow the patient to breathe in and out in a soft, normal way and exhaled air to go through the valve and reach the HME. When the patient wishes to vocalize, a slight ordinary exhalation force, like the one we all have when we normally speak, is all what is needed to cause the ball to move forward and close the frontal opening of the valve, hence redirecting the air through the larynx. This permits the tracheotomized patient to use the Shikani HME in unison with the Shikani speaking valve and to control when to breathe and achieve air humidification and air filtering, and when to redirect the air to the larynx and speak without having to disconnect the speaking valve from the HME, a true revolutionary clinical concept. HMEs are extremely important for the tracheotomized patient, and their impact on reducing pulmonary secretions cannot be emphasized enough. While it is true that speaking valves help addressing some of the side effects of a tracheotomy, including loss of speech, loss of smell, difficulty swallowing, they do not help with three critically important side effects of a tracheotomy, namely loss of humidification, loss of warming, and loss of filtering of unwanted particles from the air. In normal patients who did not undergo a tracheotomy and who breathe through the nose, the inhaled air is warmed by the nose, and by the time it reaches the lungs, it has been warmed to approximately 90 degrees Fahrenheit, humidified to approximately 100% saturation, and filtered to substantially free of dust, germs, and particles. In the tracheotomized patient, inhaled air goes through the tracheotomy tube bypassing the nose. The air that reaches the lung is colder and drier, with a temperature of approximately 68 degrees Fahrenheit and a saturation humidity of approximately 42%, and it contains unfiltered inhaled particles that include bacteria, viruses, dust, and other environmental airborne pollution irritants. Airborne pollution is a huge problem that has been worsening since the Industrial Revolution, and it affects the population of both rich and poor countries. Different air pollutants, whether from greenhouse gases, smog, tobacco, or natural sources, can overwhelm the lungs, especially when unfiltered air is inhaled directly through the tracheotomy tube, bypassing the nose, which is the natural filtering organ of the body. The effect of air bypassing the nose has been studied extensively in laryngectomy patients, and the pulmonary impact of the loss of humidification, loss of warming, and filtering of air has been very well documented in the medical literature, and a variety of effective laryngectomy HMEs are now available on the market. Regrettably, much less attention has been given by the industry to tracheotomy patients, even though the pulmonary pathophysiology of diverting inhaled air away from the nose and directly into the trachea through a tracheotomy is quite similar to a laryngectomy. The progression of events in the respiratory system which take place after a tracheotomy is as follows. First, no damage occurs for a while. With time, the mucus thickens. Mucociliary transport slows as cilia gets bogged down in the thickened mucus and stop beating. Mucosal damage occurs due to moisture loss and mucosal dehydration. Desquamation of epithelial cells and ulceration occur. Mucus secretion continues, and gobs of dried mucus begins to form, occasionally dropping into the deeper bronchi and occluding them. This causes atelectasis and pulmonary infections. Breathing cold, dry, and unfiltered air has a significant detrimental effect on the pulmonary alveoli and results in increased pulmonary secretions, cough, and a higher rate of pulmonary infections. The following pictures show the importance of an HME in filtering and removing unwanted particles from the inhaled air of a woodworker laryngectomy patient. Note the large amount of dark particles that were filtered by the foam of the HME and prevented from entering the lungs. In addition to filtering germs, dust, and air particles, HMEs also condense the water vapor contained in the patient exhaled air, retain moisture, and return it to the lungs so that to achieve a normal humidity level. They also retain heat and subsequently warm the inhaled air so that to achieve a close to normal body temperature. Tracheotomized patients who use an effective HME along with a speaking valve are hence able to restore most of the normal physiologic functions which were lost due to diversion of airflow away from the nose, the larynx, and the upper airway. HMEs result in increased particle filtration, more normalized humidity levels, more normalized temperature, reduced mucus, increased secretion control, decreased rate of infection, and increased pulmonary health. Animal studies on tracheotomized dogs have shown that breathing through a tracheostoma can cause significant damage to the tracheal mucosa and respiratory alveoli, including ciliary destruction, epithelial erosion, squamous metaplasia, submucosal infiltration, and mucus production. The use of an HME provides protection against these pathologic changes even within a period as short as 24 hours. In addition, it can also help reverse the pathological changes that have already occurred. Bronchoscopic biopsies and histologic analysis of the tracheal mucosa have shown that the dog's trachea returned to normal after 10 days of HME use. Human clinical studies also confirmed the benefit of an HME. HME caused significant decrease in humidity evaporation from the lungs, significant decrease in respiratory heat loss from the lungs. Tracheostoma breathing leads to approximately 500 milliliter of water loss daily, which cause dehydration and damage to the respiratory mucosa. Within a period as short as 10 minutes, the use of an HME significantly decreased humidity evaporation and respiratory heat loss. The use of an HME makes it possible to retain 250 to 300 milliliter of water that is lost every day, which provides significant protection to the respiratory mucosa. The most common HMEs on the market are pleated filters HMEs made of corrugated paper with considerable variability in performance. These are also called hydrophobic filters because the surface of the filter repels water. This means that the tiny water droplets which form on the surface on the paper do not get absorbed into the paper filter material, but instead remain on the surface where they can be exposed to airflow. A small number of HMEs have foam instead of paper, but the amount of foam is so small that the efficiency of the moisture return is very low. In all HMEs currently on the market, air flows in a linear pattern, which makes humidity exchange and air warming relatively inefficient. Subsequently, a fairly large amount of HME pleated paper material or foam is needed, forcing manufacturers to make the HME device bigger in size, more bulky, and hence unattractive to the patient. Despite their larger size, these bulky HMEs are still plagued with lack of efficiency. The Shikani HME has a unique design that allows air to flow through in a turbulent pattern, which greatly increases the efficiency. The HME has an outer shell with a dome at the top that provides additional dead space above the media, so that to further enhance condensation. A dimple in the center of the dome allows air to recirculate with turbulent eddies currents, which are circular currents of air of many different length scale, similar to the airflow eddies currents that occur naturally in the lungs, and redirect air through large openings on the sides of the HME. The Shikani HME also has a highly efficient hygroscopic media made of porous reticulated ester-type polyurethane foam, which is impregnated with calcium chloride. This traps moisture and heat and then returns moist, warm air to the lungs. It also provides a very effective filter from unwanted particles. When airflow is redirected in such a turbulent pattern, air particles exhibit substantially higher transverse motion, increased friction, pressure drag, and increased energy and heat transfer as compared to linear airflow. This makes the Shikani HME very efficient in heat transfer and water retention as compared to the traditional linear HMEs that are on the market. This increased efficiency also allows the Shikani HME to be made much smaller in size, more discreet, and much lighter in weight, features which are highly appreciated by the tracheotomized patients.
Another unique attribute of the Shikani Speaking Valve is that it is HME capable. An HME functions as an artificial nose. Benefits of an HME include normalized temperature, normalized humidity, and particle filtration, which all improve pulmonary health. Could a patient receive the benefits of both an HME and a speaking valve in unison? Because of the Shikani Speaking Valve's adaptable design, the patient can now receive the benefits of both speech and increased pulmonary health. To use the HME in conjunction with the Shikani Speaking Valve, place the valve with the notch up in the bias open position. This position is HME capable because it allows exhaled air to flow through the valve into the HME. Attach the HME on top of the Shikani Speaking Valve in the bias open position. Initially, the patient may feel slightly increased resistance with the HME in place, as compared to the situation where only the valve is used. This feeling is completely normal, and most patients become accustomed to using the valve in conjunction with the HME in just a few days. The unique combination of the Shikani Speaking Valve with the HME is revolutionary. You'll find that this combination increases both quality of life and pulmonary health for your patients. For more information about the Shikani HME and other products from the Airway Company, please visit theairwaycompany.com.
In order to objectively assess the performance of the Shikani HME, its airflow characteristics were studied in the laboratory using a pneumotachometer, which acts as an artificial lung machine. Because of its turbulent airflow design, the Shikani HME proved to have a much superior and significantly more efficient moisture retention when compared to the traditional linear flow HMEs that are on the market. Used in unison with the Shikani speaking valve, the Shikani HME allows the patient the ability to speak and to humidify ad lib. One question that begs to be asked: does adding the Shikani HME potentially increase airflow resistance and make it hard for the patient to use the speaking valve? In order to answer that question, the airflow characteristics of the combined Shikani HME and Shikani speaking valve were studied in the pneumotachometer setup. The data showed that the airflow resistance was not significantly different when using the Shikani HME together with the Shikani speaking valve as compared with using the Shikani speaking valve alone. Even more remarkably, the airflow resistance of the combined Shikani HME and Shikani speaking valve was still significantly lower than that of the competitive Passimure flapper valve alone. This correlates well with the clinical observation that tracheotomized patients easily tolerate the Shikani speaking valve and Shikani HME used in unison and benefit from concurrent speech and humidification. This feature is not possible with any of the competitive flapper type speaking valves because these are 100% closed upon exhalation and they do not allow exhaled air to go through. The fact that a tracheotomized patient can humidify and speak all day long by coupling the Shikani HME with the Shikani speaking valve, and also humidify and filter all night long by coupling the Shikani HME to the inner cannula of the tracheotomy tube, translates into a significant improvement in pulmonary secretions, lower phlegm, and a noticeably healthier lungs. This constitutes a revolutionary paradigm shift in the care of the tracheotomized patient with significant improvement in the quality of life.
Hi, I'm Jenny. I'm here with my son James, and we're going to talk. We're going to talk about HMEs. So historically, we've always used these stupid paper filter barrel HMEs, but now we have the Shikani branded HME, which is a humidity moisture exchanger.
I get to see through these.
And it is so much better than every other HME we've ever used. If you zoom in on the plastic front of this here, what you can see is that there's water droplets that have condensed on the outside there. Okay, you can zoom back out. So what's happening is that the Shikani HME is actually maintaining moisture in his lungs. So the breath is going here, and then he's breathing out, and he's breathing through the filter part, and he's not just filling it all with slime. So here's the two other old kinds. So here's the Portex Thermovent T, which we thought was the good kind before. And then this is, I think this is a Humidivent. So these, we've never had one of these that lasted more than like 20 minutes because they instantly become filled with slime and then the paper flies out like a slinky. These, where did it go? Okay, but that's cool. Those other ones, so these are a little bit better. These probably last maybe an hour and a half, but they also become instantly filled with slime. The paper turns to slime and then they fall apart. And so what was happening, do you have a good frame, Joe? What was happening with these paper filter HMEs is that his lungs were responding to the constant slime producing properties by producing more slime. And so we've noticed that over the course of, even just within a couple days of switching to the Shikani HMEs, his lungs stopped producing such copious secretions. He was in this cycle where the sucky HMEs made his lungs produce more slime, and therefore he was just a slime baby. So, so James, say in conclusion.
Including a slime baby.
In conclusion, the Shikani HMEs are so much better for this kid's lungs because they're actually providing the humidity they're supposed to provide instead of just creating slime. Why are you crying? Okay, we're good. Thank you, babe.
In conclusion, when compared to competitive flapper type speaking valves and linear flow HMEs that are currently on the market, The Shikani Speaking Valve and the Shikani HME offer multiple advantages. The Shikani Speaking Valve is smaller and has a lower and more discreet profile than the competitive flapper valve, which makes it quite appealing to the tracheotomized patient. The Shikani Speaking Valve offers an adaptable and dynamic design, two-way mode of use at 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock, which allows the tracheotomized patient total control over the speaking valve and over when to breathe and when to speak. With the Shikani Speaking Valve in the 12 o'clock or notch up position, the first time introduction of the speaking valve is significantly easier with the Shikani Speaking Valve as compared to the flapper valve. This feature is very important in the young patient and the elderly and the patient with pulmonary compromise, but is also generally valued by all adult tracheotomized patients. The patients learn intuitively how to control the movement of the ball inside the chamber of the Shikani Speaking Valve by changing the angle of their body. This gives the tracheotomized patient further control of the valve functionality. The Shikani Speaking Valve is associated with a superior and highly significant improvement in olfaction and restoration of the loss of smell as compared with the competitive flapper valves. The Shikani Speaking Valve is associated with a superior and highly significant improvement in speech naturalness scale as compared with the competitive flapper valve. The Shikani Speaking Valve has a consistently superior voice quality throughout 90 days of use of the valve without any honking or fluttering over time, a feature that is observed with all flapper type valves when the flapper membrane deteriorates after a few weeks of usage. The Shikani Speaking Valve can be used in unison with the Shikani HME, allowing speech and humidification concurrently, a unique feature which is not possible with the competitive flapper valves and HMEs on the market. To date, thousands of tracheotomized patients have benefited from the superior features of the Shikani Speaking Valve and Shikani HME. To learn more and for product information, please visit the Airway Company's website, www.theairwaycompany.com, or call 1-800-707-8458.
But even there was almost more of a vocalization than I think what we've ever gotten with the passy.
I like this valve because it has the air passages. The design is really nice because you can breathe with it.
Which speaking valve you like the best?
This one.
And how come?
Good.
Because why?
It has a little ball in it.
It does. Is it easier than your purple one?
Yeah.
Yeah. How loud can you yell at cheerleading?
Really loud.
Wow, that's great.
The Shikani Speaking Valve changed my life dramatically because I work as a social worker and I do a lot of talking, and I work in a hospital with a lot of different people, and when I used the other speaking valve it was very tiring, and at that point I thought I can't work because I was so tired and I couldn't talk a lot and I couldn't breathe a lot. So I got the Shikani Speaking Valve and it completely changed my life.
You do the hokey pokey. You do the hokey pokey. You do the hokey pokey. That's what it's all about.
Thank you, honey.